Welcome aboard, folks. Thank you for joining in. Your voice counts on this great radio station, Republic Broadcasting Network. I want to thank that beautiful voice you just heard, Mrs. Kat Faber. She did that song, and she has several others and more coming. But what a beautiful voice that woman has, and her heart and soul is into getting the truth out about the USS Liberty. Now, I always enjoy all my guests on Your Voice Counts, and especially when I get a survivor that was there that day. And in my book, I call it What I Saw That Day. And everybody has a different viewpoint from where they were, what they were doing, and so on and so forth. Now, Moe Shafer is one of those type of guys. Moe Shafer was a communications technician aboard the USS Liberty, June 8, 1967. I believe Moe was a third class CT at the time. I could be wrong, but I knew that for sure. Moe was a petty officer, and you have to understand, folks, the USS Liberty were two different crews. You had ship's company, and then you had the spooks, the spies. And did we get along? Not really, because we really didn't know exactly what the deal was, other than the fact that our job was to take care of the communications technicians and make sure that their life was as made as easy as the ship's company could make them. And I have to tell you, folks, from a degree of about 10% to 1,000,000%, that day aboard USS Liberty, I saw heroism from the communication technicians that no one could even fathom. These men stood their ground when the torpedoes were coming and didn't flinch. They could have run out of that hole. They could have tried to save their lives, but they didn't. They stood their ground. Courage, does that take courage, dedication to the United States of America, their job, the United States Navy? You bet it does. I respect these guys more than you can believe, as I do the engineers that stood their ground when the torpedoes were coming below the waterline, just as Moe was. I'm going to read this bio, a short bio. It's not that long, but it's very, very interesting. Before the attack, Moe, he was cleaning the moon bounce dish and watched as Israeli planes flew over the ship taking photographs. It was a confirmation of the testimony of other eyewitnesses that Israel was well aware of the ship's presence. The second memory from after the attacks was what's more significant. Moe said he was hurt by shrapnel during the assault, and I also believe that Moe was blown from one deck up into the overhead from the torpedo explosion. And you can imagine the ferocity of that explosion, and it was, folks. It picked the ship completely up out of the water, and I think that Moe has permanent damage from that torpedo explosion. Unlike most of the injured who were already been taken away to the USS America, he was loaded into a helicopter and flown to USS Davis. Or it could have been USS Little Rock, I don't know. The flagship of the Sixth Fleet, Commander Admiral Martin. The next morning, he was sitting on his bunk with two other, or maybe 300 injured men when Martin came in to see them. Now, here you got a flag admiral and head of the Sixth Fleet, that task force group coming in to see these guys. Shafer said he seemed to want to tell something about what had happened before he would be obliged through pressure from above to calm up. In other words, keep your mouth shut, guys. Not only did Admiral Martin tell me that four jets were on their way to the Liberty with conventional weapons and were recalled. And we all know where they were recalled from, off the USS Saratoga in America. He stated that 4 were on their way to Cairo loaded with nuclear weapons. And that's what I have in my book, what I saw that day, exactly the same thing. He stated they were 3 minutes for bombing them, the Egyptians. He also said that the jets could not land back on the carrier with nuclear arms, and they had to land in Athens. He stated this from my bedside while I'm the Little Rock, the code name of the flagship after the attack. The story told by Moe Shafer about Admiral Martin confirming that the U.S. planned to nuke Cairo is also a story that is validated by Air Force pilot Jim Nanjo in California and a member of the H-bomb task force. So it's not only from surface vehicles on the Navy on the water, it was on land force bases also. Nanjo didn't know that Cairo was supposed to be the target, only that he and other crew members were standby to take off and drop nuclear bombs. Nanjo could never understand why he was called out of bed in the middle of the night, June 8, 1967, California time, before the attack on the USS Liberty by the State of Israel. I could go on with this statement, but I think it pretty much tells you the complicity and what was going on in the mind of Lyndon Baines Johnson, McNamara, and his crew was to make sure the USS Liberty was sunk at the bottom of the sea, blame it on Cairo, nuke them, and the footprint in the Middle East would be completely different than it is now. Folks, the reason I do this radio show is memory of my shipmates, the ones that didn't make it back, that never got to hug their mother and fathers or their children, their brothers and sisters. They'll never be forgotten in my mind. And most of the men that were killed that day, 25 of them were communications technicians that stood their ground under tremendous pressure of 5 torpedoes coming out of them. And unfortunately, one of them hit directly in their spaces and blew them to bits. What a terrible, terrible story this was and is aboard the USS Liberty, and the cover-up is even worse. I also want to thank RBN. Thank you. We're going to go to a break here in about 30 seconds. I want to thank RBN. I want to thank Craig, our board operator today, and also John Statmiller for giving me the opportunity to do this radio show. And remember the crew of the USS Liberty, the men that gave their lives that day, the men that were wounded, and especially to the families that lost their loved ones and still don't know the truth. And when the music comes on, folks, we got to go to a break. Support your sponsors up. Our guest is Moe Shafer is aboard. See you in a minute.
Well, the time has finally come for the story to be told. That should have been listened to a long time ago. In 1967.
Welcome back, folks, to Your Voice Counts. Welcome back, folks, to Your Voice Counts. Thanks again for hanging on. Certainly do appreciate it. And our guest is with us, Moe Shafer. Please hang on just a minute, Moe. I appreciate it very much. I just have to finish a little bit more of USS Liberty business. And I wanted to, Moe, if you'd missed it, I wanted to thank you again for your courage and your fellow shipmates that stayed below when the torpedoes were coming. And I give you great credit as all of the CTs aboard USS Liberty, or what other duty stations they may go to, because it's a very dangerous job, and we both know that. And along with the engineers, you guys stood your ground below decks when the torpedoes were coming, and that gave me great pride to know how brave you men were. And it is, as you know, we were two separate crews, the CTs and the ship's company, and I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that, of my great and deep regret that your shipmates were killed. The majority of the people killed aboard that ship were CTs that I said stood their ground. They didn't run like rats, and unfortunately, they paid the ultimate price, their life. Now, folks, again, the reason I do this show is to honor our shipmates aboard our great ship, the USS Liberty. Nothing more, nothing less. That their souls and their families will not be forgotten or their lives taken in vain. Folks, there's a pledge drive going on at RBN right now. Call in 800-724-2719. Whatever you can afford, send in to this great radio station. Real news, real talk, real people, RBN, because you can't handle the truth. 800-724-2719. If you send in $100, you're going to get a beautiful shirt and an RBN mug. So we're getting, a pretty good pledge drive going, so let's keep it going. I also want to thank Kat Faber, our beautiful voice, producer of this radio show, who gets on so many great guests. We just love her. She's probably one of the saving graces of this radio show for sure. And certainly Ron Kukul. He's co-producer. He does a great job. He was a petty officer in charge of body recovery and identification when we got in Valletta, Malta, June 14, 1967. And also my dear friend and mentor, John Gadesco. John was a former intelligence officer aboard the USS Liberty, and he has the website tinyurl.com/USS Liberty, tinyurl.com/USS Liberty. And with that said, folks, I bring on a special guest, Moe Shafer, survivor USS Liberty, entrepreneur, and a father to beautiful children and a great wife. And thank you, Mo, for coming aboard. Your voice counts. And what brings you on our show today?
Well, Phil, it's great to talk to you, and it's an honor to be a part of your show today. And obviously, as a crew member, I wanted to share my small part of the story. I know that you've had a lot of guests and a lot of shipmates on, and of course, every one of us were in a different position that day, so to speak. And as in your book, what I saw that day, you were out there and witnessed basically everything that happened on the top side. And, of course, when the attack happened, I was up on the top side of the ship, but went down into spaces where the eventual torpedo hit where we worked as our jobs. So I'm at your direction here, so I'll do whatever you ask me. I'll be glad to tell what I can.
I appreciate that, Mo, and again, I appreciate your service, especially aboard the USS Liberty, and your support in the post-attack. You've done a superb job for the crew and the USS Liberty Veterans Association. But what I would like to ask you is, I read a bio here that you actually talked to Admiral Martin, and that he told you that the ship's planes were recalled, that were supposed to come to our aid, and also that ships or planes were going to Cairo to incinerate Cairo with nuclear weapons. Now, I read this online from a gal that was sent to me by Kat Faber. I just wondered how much of this story is true, and or is any of it true?
Well, I can kind of take you through. Is that after the attack, of course, I survived where the torpedo hit. 25 died in the room that we were in, and several of us, I think there were another 20. Some of us got out of there, fortunately, with the the help of you and other crew members who helped us get out of the hole. But I went that day up on the top side of the ship. I went there to assist whatever I was directed to do after the ship burning up and so forth. But went on to mess decks and helped a lot of the crew members through the next 20-some hours who were injured, and really didn't realize that, I was hurting some, but didn't realize any of the injuries that I had at the time until I kind of got through the shock and so forth, and had, in the room where the torpedo hit, I remember falling, so I had been blown up and blown into the ceiling, and my head hit all the pipes and so forth, so I had a concussion, and which has caused me major health issues since then. And anyway, after they flew everybody off the ship that was injured onto the USS America, there were like 5 of us left at the end, and a helicopter came and picked 5 of us up and took us onto the USS Little Rock, which was a guided missile cruiser, which was the flagship of the 6th Fleet. And Admiral Martin was the commandant of the 6th Fleet, so he was the guy in charge of the whole complete 6th Fleet out there and of everything in the Mediterranean. So anyway, he sat on my bedside and with the 5 of us there, and certainly was very gracious and told us what kind of happened that day. We asked, can you tell us what transpired? And he says, when we got the message that the ship was under attack, believed to be Arabs, we launched 4 planes off the Saratoga, and those planes were loaded with conventional weapons, and those were going to the aid of the ship to help there. And then he says we loaded 4 jets off the America aircraft carrier with nuclear warheads headed toward Cairo to defend us in that case. And he said they were loaded with nuclear warheads. So I can't tell you in history as it goes and so forth any more than I heard him say that day, but there's been a lot of stories and so forth as to why that would have happened or whatever. But yet, I don't think he had the power to drop the nukes, but he certainly had the power to put the planes in the air and be ready to do whatever was called on him to do. And, of course, as the rest of the story goes, those planes were called back in mid-flight to the Saratoga and to the America. They were called back because Johnson and McNamara told them to get back, to not come to our aid. I heard you talking about something earlier on the show that I missed part of that, but yet we kind of know that they knew this was going to happen or whatever. But
we're going to go to a break. When the music comes in, we got to take a commercial break. This is quite a story, folks. I'm telling you, this is coming from a man that was there. How many men in your life do you know that survived a torpedo attack? I know few, but I'm talking to one right now. Folks, support your sponsors on RBN. We'll see you in just a moment. Thank you. Welcome back, folks, to Your Voice Counts. Thanks for hanging on, folks. And again, certainly appreciate you hanging on to Your Voice Counts and listening in. I'll tell you, Moe's got a story here that is, this is firsthand, folks, from a survivor that was blown up into the overhead. Thank God it didn't knock him out or keeping incapacitated where he couldn't get out of there. Like he said, there was only 20 of them that got out of those spaces. So thank God for that, Moe. And also your story is consistent with what I've read online, exactly what was said. And also there was a pilot out in California that was a pilot that was based on land and was woken up in the middle of the night. He was a pilot named Nanjo with orders to do exactly what you had just commented on sending nuclear aircraft to Cairo to incinerate them. So, Mo, with that being said, please go ahead and finish your story, and then we'll take a few questions.
Yeah, well, I'd like to. I want to finish up this part, Phil, and then I'd like to kind of take you through my sequence that day if I can.
Absolutely.
But one thing that kind of really, to me, confirmed that the planes with nuclear warheads, the planes with conventional weapons are allowed to come back and land on the carrier. So they went back to the Saratoga and landed. The 4 planes on the America had to go over to Greece and land their planes on land because they can't land back on a carrier with a nuclear warhead on the plane. So that's kind of really confirms when Admiral Martin told me that. But the interesting part of that day, and from my point of view and where I was on the ship, we had just had a general quarters drill, a battle drill practice, and broke after that, and a bunch of us were up on the back of the ship sunbathing, so we weren't expecting to be attacked under any circumstances. My friend and I, Jim Cavanaugh, had been up on the basket, the Trescom basket, which was used each month to send messages back to NSA off the moon, and so that was a pretty sophisticated classified area that he and I were up there working and cleaning on that day, and watched the boxcar planes come over us that morning and take photographs of us close enough to wave to, and that's how low they were with the cameras hanging out taking pictures. So as an eyewitness to that, watching them come out 4 or 5 times that I recall them coming out doing that. And then when we were up sunbathing, I see a jet go over my head, and then I go down below there to go in my berthing space in the back of the ship, and Spicer, our postman, is laying there because he's been hit with a missile out of a jet that came straight out of the sun, and the other one came across the front of the ship. But, of course, I dived down in the hole, and my general quarter station and battle drill is to go down to the research spaces, where it was a very classified area to where we worked, the CTs, as you call them, the communications technicians, all had highest crypto clearances, and we were there to do the job that we were assigned to do. But going into that hole and to have some bullets starting to pierce to come in there, it was really scary when you couldn't tell what was going on or anything above. Of course, you were up there watching that, Phil, yourself, and being very active in that and battening down the ship and all that. But after the air attack stopped, there was about a 20-minute lull or so that nothing was going on. And all of a sudden, then the captain comes over the speaker and says, "Prepare for torpedo attack." And I looked at my buddy and I said, "How the heck do we prepare for a torpedo attack? I mean, I've not been trained to do that." And so most people were sitting at their workstations or standing up and wondering what was going on. And Jim Cavanaugh laid down, and I laid down on the floor and wrapped our arms around a table leg. And, of course, the rest is history. The torpedo hit and blew us to smithereens. But, you wonder why you're spared your life when others around you died. And as Ron Kukl can certainly attest to, of being in charge of all the body cleanup, the 25 killed, I think only one of them were identified by any physical features. The rest they had to find name tags or whatever to identify those. And then the other 25 of us that got out, except for Joe Lentini, were we were all pretty much okay. And not with any critical injuries except for Joe Lentini, who was caught between a door and a hatch and was injured severely there. But anyway, to be in that room and have that attack happen, then come up on the top side of the ship and have all the smell of the oil and all that there is certainly fear kind of engages you. And then to go out on the front of the ship and see the whole ship on fire with napalm, and my buddy Birdman laying there with a bullet in his head, and just to see all that, and what do you do next? Like, why didn't they go ahead and sink us? Why are they letting us go? Because we were just helpless. We were dead out there. So that's basically what I witnessed up until the next day. I told you I was in there taking care of the injured and sitting with them all night and trying to help keep people alive and so forth. But from this dark hole we were in, to have a torpedo come and hit, and you can't imagine the blast, why we weren't all electrocuted. I mean, it was a miracle for those of us who got out of there. And then I stayed with the ship. When I was off, I got back to the ship the day it landed in Malta, and so I helped in the cleanup. And the body cleanup, a lot of the main part was doing that day when they were there. But I spent the next 30-some days on that ship. I volunteered to stay on it and clean out that private research space down there. And I can tell you, we spent clear up to the 30th day, we were pulling parts of shipmates out of air conditioner vents and out of whatever. I can't describe to you what it was like to be in and have that responsibility and the trauma that goes on there. And then to think that we sat there for 20 hours or so before before the Davis came up to us, anybody to come and help us. And I can never go and talk to somebody and not talk about Dr. Kiefer, who was our doctor, because we had one doctor on board who I personally hold responsible for saving so many lives of the 171 that were wounded. And just he's a huge hero along with our captain. But that's kind of my story, Phil, and it's certainly a big part of it, obviously.
Well, Moe, I'll tell you, you bring tears to my eyes when I think back to what you guys went through, and you're right. Through God's mercy, how any of you made it out of that space is simply unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, it's a miracle, and just right above where the torpedo hit, and your workspaces and your fellow shipmates was the weight room, and there was a huge gash in the ship, and we looked down through that gash, Moe, and you might have done the same thing, but you couldn't see any ship. There was nothing there, nothing but blue water, right. Mediterranean water, and it was unbelievable that we stayed afloat. And I was always very, very cautious that I thought they were going to come back and get us that night, and they very well could have, very easily. But I think the gig was up when we identified them as Israeli, and when the Israeli helicopters come over to finish us off, why they didn't, and they probably still could have got by with it, with all the lies and stuff that's been told. And Moe, we weren't a threat to anybody. We were doing exactly what our government had ordered us to do, especially you guys, is pick signals out of the sky, which is perfectly legal. We were in international waters. And for our government to leave us there, to set us up, to be sunk. And if we sink, I think you're exactly right. World War III, possibly. At least Cairo would have been incinerated. But by the grace of God and good seamanship and people like you that helped out, and thank you. We got 30 seconds, but I just wanted to let everybody know, and Moe can attest to this. There hardly wasn't a spot you could walk in the mess decks, and it's a pretty large room. If there wasn't a body there, and these people just weren't injured with cuts and bruises, they were severely injured, and some of them severely injured you could hardly even look at them. They were so hurt, and so their bodies torn apart by either shrapnel or bullets or napalm or whatever. So, yeah, a tragic story. Something that needs to come out, and that's, like I say, why I do this radio show. It's not my radio show. It's the USS Liberty Veterans radio show, and I'm just lucky enough to be able to get the word out. But in the minutes, we got to go to a break here, Moe, and then we'll come right back to you. Real news, real talk, real people, RBN, because you can't handle the truth. Thanks, folks. Hang on.
They said that Israeli forces.
Back, folks. Your voice counts. I want to take up too much time here, but I just, Moe, when you described your duty of peeling your shipmates' flesh off bulkheads and vents and so on and so forth is heartbreaking, and is also numbing to the brain. There's a lot of things that day that I probably put away and will never forget, but most of it I did, and I'm sure it has affected you emotionally, and I know that you getting slammed up by that torpedo because it did pick the ship almost completely out of the water and slam it back down, and for you to not be severely injured, which I think you've had several operations or more just to repair your back or neck injuries. And
I've had over 12 operations, right?
Jesus, unbelievable. And
with no benefits for the military.
No, absolutely not. And we got a shipmate on standing by here, Ron Kukul. He wants to get on the air, and we're going to bring him on. But I first want to let you guys know that as being a ship's company, and I said this earlier in the show, and well, you guys know, and I know how it went aboard the ship. You got ship's company and ship's crew, but my admiration for the communication technicians is so immense, and I'm very humbled and very grateful for the work you've done for the United States of America, National Security Agency, your fellow shipmates. And I'm not just talking about CTs. I'm talking about all the ship's company. You and Ron have done a fantastic job, and my hat's off to you. And again, folks, how many men do you know that have survived a torpedo attack with the ferocious blow-up that we had? It was unbelievable. I mean, if you weren't there, you couldn't believe it. And people still listen to it, and they can't believe it. But these two men lived it. And Ron, go ahead and please go say what you would like to. I get wrapped up in this so much, it just it breaks my heart.
Hey, you've done good today, Phil, and you haven't said anything about my age, and I appreciate that.
You're
anyway,
absolutely welcome.
Yeah. I want to just say that I want to thank you, Moe, for joining the long line of people that have come on this show, from former Senator Ed Lai Stevenson, former Congressman Pete McCluskey, and former Ambassador Ed Peck. There are some of the people that we've had on this show, and thanks for joining the long line that has been a part of this. I don't think anybody can say
part of my shipmates.
It's really great. And, you were talking a little bit about, or Phil was saying something about, he was kind of afraid that they were going to come back and finish the job. That carried on with me all the way till I got back home. And I used to talk with Jim Ennis on the phone for several years, wondering if they were going to put a car bomb in my car, or what they were going to do to try to do away with me. I really thought they would come clear over here to finish the job. I don't know if anybody else felt that way or not, but that's certainly how I felt.
I do want to say one other thing, too, but going back to the hole just a second, where the torpedo hit. You take the 25 friends and shipmates that sacrificed their lives that day, but there's one thing that I think a lot of people may not realize is that bless them in a way, because they gave up their lives to save the other 270 or so shipmates that were on the ship, because that torpedo was a homing torpedo designed to pierce, implode, and explode and split the ship in half. And by God's grace, the torpedo went off on impact. So it created a much larger hole, and it killed 25. But had it gone off the proper way, it would have split the ship in half, and 294 people would be dead, and the ship would have sunk. So, there's something to say for that, too, as horrible as that is. But
well, Moe, who do you think they would have blamed for that?
Who do I what now?
Who do you think they would have blamed for our ship going down?
They would have blamed the Arabs. I mean, there's no question about it. They would have blamed Egypt, and that was their total intent. And I'm as convinced as you are that our boys in Washington knew about this before it even happened, and that's just that makes me cringe. It makes me sick to even think that any human could let something like that happen. But the greatest disappointment, and Ron, I'll let you go, is that 47 years later, and to be and sit and even have a friendship with my U.S. Senator who would not risk any part of his career to even try to support us, and because it's political suicide for them. So that's why we have so much trouble. Nobody wants to listen to our story, and they have their perfect little cover-up in Washington to end all those letters we write and all that and say they've investigated it. So it's just the crimes continue and the cover-up continues, and obviously this can be contested by a lot of people, but the real people who know the story are the ones who were there, and a bunch of us survived, so we know the story. We know exactly what happened that day, especially when you watch somebody shoot your life rafts out when you call abandoned ship. I mean, that's that's a war crime. So anyway, I'll be quiet. Ron, go ahead.
Oh, thanks a lot. I want to thank you, Moe, again, and I hope that you'll get back to me on the fact that the operations you've had and the surgeries, and you've got no assistance with the military from that. We need to take care of that, and I think we can do it. So I'm going to get out of here. There might be a few more phone calls, and I'm sure Phil's aware of them. And it goes both ways, Phil. It goes both ways. We have great admiration for what Ship's Company had done. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't be here if you hadn't opened up the scuttle to let us guys out of the torpedo compartment. What can I say but thank you?
Well, thank you, Ron, and I appreciate your testimony and your effort to keep the USS Liberty story alive. And folks, I want you to take this to heart. We're not Jew haters. We're not Nazis. We didn't hurt anybody. We didn't hurt a soul. There wasn't one Israeli that got a scratch on him. That isn't us. Our intent is only this, is to get the God's honest truth out, period. Nothing more, nothing less. This is not vengeance. It certainly is not vengeance. All it is people that want justice, and that's what this country is made of. It was founded on justice and liberty, and how fitting that we were on one of the greatest ships that ever sailed the seas. The United States ship USS Liberty tells you volumes, and they won't even bring up there was supposed to be a ship made of part of the World Trade Towers. They wanted to name it the Liberty, and they said absolutely not, because it brings up too many bad things about Israel and the United States of America. So that tells you the power of AIPAC, and as Moe mentioned, his congressman won't give him the time of day because of AIPAC, ADL, Benjamin Netanyahu. It just goes on and on. We got 45 seconds. I'm going to let whoever wants to close this show out. Moe, go ahead.
Well, first of all, Phil, again, thank you so much, and as Ron said too, for you being there to open up that hatch for us today, and we certainly had crew members helping us get out of that hole, and that was obviously we really appreciate that. I just want people to understand that. I mean, 6 of my best friends are Jewish guys, so there is no anti-Semitic part of this or whatever. It's a reality that happened. We were bombed and torpedoed by a country called Israel, and it's been made the largest cover-up in the history of our government. And so that in itself is something that needs to be shared with more and more people, and thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you, Moe. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, all of the great guests I've had on this radio show. Moe, we got to get you back because there's more things we have to talk about. And, folks, we love this country. That's why we're doing it. And we do it on this radio station. Real news, real talk, real people on RBN, because you can't handle the truth. Thank Craig for our board operator today. He did a great job. See you next week.